Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Luke Canellis from Fox 32 in Chicago. Let's bring in the crew. Joining me this week on First and North, the voice of the Lions, Dan Miller from Fox Milwaukee. Good to see Tim Van Voren back. And from Fox Minneapolis, also Ahmad Hicks back in the house. Good to see everyone. Week 2. Guys, we learned the Packers are the real deal with Micah Parsons. Hey, writing off the Lions without Ben Johnson, huge mistake. Not so fast on the J.J. McCarthy, Fran Tarkington comparisons. And the Bears rebuild is going to take much longer than anyone expected, and that includes Ben Johnson. All right, I want to start with Ahmad in Minnesota. Hey, Ahmad, J.J. McCarthy suffers a high ankle sprain. Won't play Sunday, right?
No, he won't play Sunday. Absolute worst case scenario if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, because this is a guy who hasn't had a ton of experience in the National Football League, and now he's subject to miss another 2 to 3 weeks, and then he returns from a bye week and gets to face Jalen Carter and the Philadelphia Eagles. So tough sledding right now, but insert Carson Wentz. That's why they went out and got him and paid him to be a backup quarterback. So he's expected to start versus the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend.
All right, we're going to talk about Wentz in the second segment, but I want to go back to McCarthy. Ahmad, how could McCarthy look so good in the fourth quarter against the Bears and so bad at home against Atlanta?
That's $1 million question right now, Lou. I think everybody in Minnesota is asking the same question. I mean, I know in the first game versus Chicago, you could kind of say that the offense was a little vanilla in the second half. They were trying not to put too much on McCarthy's plate, make sure that he could just get the ball out of his hands. And by doing so, the offense did nothing in that first half versus the Bears, and then they came to life in the fourth quarter. But then you come back, face a Falcons team where it just looks like, as Kevin O'Connell said, they take one step forward and take 2 steps back. Wasn't a great day, but I also know that Ryan Kelly, their starting center, he went out with an injury. Justin Skule, their backup left tackle, he left the game because of an injury. They both suffered concussion. So you could say right now Christian Darrisaw's absence at the left tackle spot is to blame for all the troubles offensively, because I think when he's on the field, that offensive line plays better. J.J. McCarthy has more time, but right now they just don't have a lot of time. Sacked 9 times through 2 games.
Wow. We're going to talk about the return on investment on that offensive line coming up later as well. Dan, I want to bring you in. All well in Detroit now after the Lions smacked around the Bears like a piñata.
Yeah, it's amazing how things change after 1 week. You know, a week ago after the loss to the Packers, and look, Packers did a number on the Lions in that opening game. There were people saying, you know, the Lions aren't going to be able to make it back. Losing those 2 coordinators was too much. That offense isn't the same without Ben Johnson. I think there was a quiet confidence in and about Allen Park where the Lions trained that they just didn't play well against Green Bay. Full credit to the Packers. They did. They made plays, but I think the Lions had confidence in who they are and their ability to bounce back. And I think you saw that against the Bears. I think there were some things they still weren't happy with, but overall, believe me, spending a little bit of time out there early this week, it's much lighter, it's much airier, it's not as heavy out there, and they feel good about the fact that they're able to get that first win, and they know they have a tough one coming up against Baltimore. So they did what they had to do in that game.
All right, I want to talk about something you just mentioned, what they didn't like. Obviously, I still can't sleep, and I've lost my voice after watching the Lions maul the one area of the Bears that I really felt good about, and I felt good about that Bears defense, and then Detroit posts 52 on that defense. Was there anything that Dan Campbell wasn't happy about after that performance?
They didn't score 72.
I knew it was coming.
I think they felt like they had some empty
He could have scored
possessions.
60. He could have scored 60.
Yeah, look, I think they feel like they had some empty possessions in that game. I don't think they liked, again, for the second consecutive week, giving up a first drive touchdown and a 3rd and 9 red zone touchdown. So we're talking about things that you can pick at a little bit, and we're talking about things that probably in the grand scheme of things you can overcome. But I do think they feel like there's still room for improvement. I think they feel like they missed some things. They left some things out there. They did see the pass rush step up a little bit, mostly when you knew Chicago had to throw. I think they need to be better in that department. But look, big step up for Tate Ratledge in Game 2. Big step up for Christian Mahogany in what was his 4th start, including the playoffs last year. So they needed to see that in particular as they get ready to go into Baltimore. But look, all in all, this league is about winning and getting better and avoiding what happened in week 1, which is losing and then putting your back against the wall where you know you have to get better. So again, I just think this is a team that knows who they are, even if people outside doubt them. And fellas, that might be what drives them this year. You know, they barely missed the playoffs in 22. That drove them in 23. 30 minutes short of the Super Bowl in 23. That drove them in 24. Last year was just a disaster in so many ways you won 15, but you lost so many players, then you're gone after one playoff game. I think this team kind of likes the fact that people are doubting them, and all the talking heads seem to be wondering whether or not this is the same Lions team. You always need something to latch on to, and I think that's what they've grabbed.
That's a great point. I was one of those talking heads that didn't really think that Detroit offensive line was better than what we saw a year ago, or at least would improve, and sure enough, I was proven wrong. I want to talk about the Bears because I can't think of a positive out of that game. I mean, there's nothing good about a game when the other team posts 52 points on you. Really, guys, this is professional sports. We're not dealing with kids here looking for positive reinforcement. You're paid to play well and win. And I'm excited now to see how the Bears respond. You think the fans are upset? You think the players are embarrassed? I assure you, and I know Dan Miller knows this, Ben Johnson is fuming off camera and sent a warning to some of his players on camera yesterday that he is going to get it right with these players or without them.
The way that we've talked about it as a coaching staff going into this week is we're going to have a lot more competition. I've alluded to it before. Just what these guys look like when the ball's not in their hands, that's a big deal for us. And so there were some plays there yesterday that we weren't quite as pleased with what that looked like on tape. And so we're going to find out this week at practice who wants to practice hard and who wants to be a little bit more involved with the game plan here going into Sunday.
Boy, he is so politically right. You want a positive from the Bears game. That was it right there. The day after, the coach telling his players, be accountable. Either you practice and play the game the way I expect you're going to play the game, or you're going to sit. Ben Johnson, man, this guy's beholden to no one in this locker room. No one. He's the boss. He's going to determine who's worthy of playing. You think he cares if he sits a veteran down for not playing hard? I don't see it. I see a guy that just watched his team get their teeth kicked in by 31, and no one on the Bears had their nose rubbed in it more than Ben Johnson because of the way he left the Lions. All right, Tim, rescue me from screaming because, as I said, I'm struggling here. I bet you have the Packers right at this point going undefeated, 17-0, don't you?
The birds are singing in Wisconsin, guys. You know, it's a glorious start to the season for the Packers. You know, Dan talks about, the Lions maybe are going to kind of be galvanized by these people doubting them. The Packers almost have the other concern. Everybody's singing their praises after 2 weeks of the season, and rightfully so. It's been a pretty good formula to follow. Get ahead, don't make any mistakes, and let your defense start to tee off. This was a defense, guys, that the Packers felt very good about through their preseason before they added Micah Parsons. And the Parsons addition has been kind of a multiplier since they brought him in. So great start. Couldn't script it much better for the Packers. They've had a couple of minor injury situations to monitor, but otherwise real good. And on the schedule now, at Cleveland, at Dallas, a bye, the Bengals without Joe Burrow. Suddenly the Packers are thinking, where could we take this thing?
That could be dangerous. Tim, I want to play this because I love this moment after the game from Packers fans.
I know you guys know what they're saying. They're saying, thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Hey, Parsons had a half a sack in that game, but his presence makes such an impact, doesn't it?
Well, it really does. It kind of floats all boats. He said he'd be at his best by the end of the month. We haven't even gotten to that point, and he's already been such an impact player. Had a sack in the first game, a half a sack in the second, and did definitely impact the other guys on the defensive side of the ball. It just speeds everything up. The Packers had some doubts maybe about their cornerbacks coming into this season. Well, you take some pressure off your cornerbacks if you're speeding up those opposing quarterbacks. And, Dan Miller saw them the first week of the season, and, Jared Goff's a very accomplished NFL quarterback, but he wasn't very good in that game because this Packer defense has been dictating 2 weeks out now.
I'm going to ask you what I asked Dan. Is there anything that Matt LaFleur isn't happy about right now?
It would be it'd be a short list. He talked about obviously, just like some of the other coaches will always mention, some empty possessions, and this guy can do a little bit more on special teams. They haven't really gotten their running game going yet. I think that's one thing. Josh Jacobs has scored touchdowns in each of the first 2 games, so he has a double-digit streak now of consecutive games with a rushing touchdown, but he hasn't broken anything, so they haven't really gotten going on the ground so far. But they feel, they've played and beaten 2 very good teams in the NFC. That's a nice position to be in. So LaFleur, even when he's going to face us on Wednesday and say, oh boy, this is tough. I mean, who is he, Joe Paterno up there? Everybody knows it's going pretty well so far.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we need to take a timeout. Do the Packers have enough on offense after losing a key receiver? We'll discuss. And how about Caleb Williams? Is he the right quarterback for Ben Johnson? You'll want to hear what Colin Cowherd had to say about that when we come back here on First and North.
Texas Tech takes on Utah. It's Big Noon Saturday on Fox.
We're back on First and North. Lee Canellis, Fox 32 Chicago. Dan Miller, Fox in Detroit. Tim Van Voren, Fox Milwaukee. Ahmad Hicks, Fox Minneapolis. Tim, let me bring you back again. We learned Thursday night after the game that the Packers are going to be without their receiver, Jayden Reed, for 6 to 8 weeks with a broken collarbone. I saw where Tucker Kraft has said that Green Bay has a 5-headed dragon on offense. Can they handle the loss of Reed?
It's a significant loss, I would say that. They do have a lot of weapons offensively right now. They feel good about that. But Reed is such a jackknife kind of guy. He can do so many different things. He got hurt on a touchdown catch, which was negated by penalty, but just a sensational catch. Got himself to a good spot on the field that not all of their other receivers can get to. So he is going to be a big loss for this team. He's not lost for the whole season. He posted something on social media on Tuesday afternoon coming out of surgery on his collarbone, saying, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to be back, et cetera, et cetera. So he definitely is in the picture as the season goes along, but he is going to be a guy who they're going to have to account for. Maybe this is where the rookies, Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, 2 top 3 round draft choices from April, get their chance.
Yeah, I'm willing. I'm excited to see Golden. I want to ask you about the offensive linemen, Zach Tom and Aaron Banks. Are they coming back this week?
I don't think they necessarily will. Maybe one of the two. The Packers are famous for saying, we're going to give them the week, we're going to see. And you have Myles Garrett of the Browns, so that's a bit of a concern. But in terms of you're in the situation, you've won 2 games, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, I don't think they're going to rush either of those guys back. And they're both very big money, big ticket kind of guys on that line who they want for the games that really matter when you get to December and January.
Hey, Ahmad, Vikings opened up their checkbook, man, to rebuild and add to their offensive and defensive lines. Are you seeing ROI through 2 games?
Yeah, I think in the first game versus the Bears, Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, they got after Caleb Williams. They confused him quite a bit. They had him holding on to the football, and he was sacked quite a bit. So I think defensively, yes. Offensively, not so much. I think that's debatable. But like I said in the first segment, I think that all stems from not having Christian Darrisaw there, a guy who can kind of anchor that offensive line and get them where they need to be. And I think as we all see, like in this world, everyone wants instant gratification. They want to see success as soon as you're thrown out there. And sometimes I think you just need several weeks if you're talking about the offensive line to play well with one another, to know where they need to pick up the slack and do extra things. So do I think they are seeing a great return on their investment right now offensively and defensively? Defensively more so, yeah. Offensively, not so much. But I think Christian Darrisaw will answer all those problems whenever he gets back on the playing field.
Well, what's the latest? When do you think Darrisaw is coming back? What are you hearing?
I reported on this before the season even started that he was going to miss the first 3 to 4 weeks and maybe come back around their London or Dublin trip. I spoke to him after that Bears game, and he told me, he said, mentally, physically, I'm there, but he said, I just need a couple more weeks just to make sure that I'm confident and that I don't have to spend time in the training room, and things like that after a game, because you're talking about a guy who got a big multi-million-dollar contract last year, then tore his ACL, and he knows he's due for another contract in a couple of years. So I think he wants to make sure health-wise he's good to go, mentally wise he's good to go, but he told me just a couple of more weeks. So I doubt we'll see him versus the Bengals this weekend, but maybe a good chance you see him versus the Steelers in week 4.
I want to talk about the Bengals with Dan Miller, but first, how about Aidan Hutchinson, Dan, coming off the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon? This guy's back, isn't he?
Yeah, look, and you could see a little bit of rust early. I know that first sack meant a lot to him. You could see his reaction on the field, just kind of opening his arms to the fans and even blowing some kisses. It's a long way back from a brutal injury that he had last year, and he means so much to this football team that as a questionable pass rush to begin with, he's got to be a dominant factor in the game for this team, and he knows that, and we've talked about it before, guys. He is up for a new contract, which is now, thanks to Green Bay and what they gave Micah Parsons, pushing $47 to $50 million. Wow. So he's up for that, and they need him to be the guy that was tracking towards Defensive Player of the Year last year when he got hurt, and we're seeing him ramp up, and I think that'll continue to be the case, and they need that to continue to be the case because he is one of those guys in this league that can change a game from that edge rushing position.
All right, he even gave the game ball, I saw, to Fallon as well, so he had fun with it. I was rolling through some of the Detroit papers and websites this morning, Dan, and I saw that, Cincinnati lost Joe Burrow, of course, for 3 months with the toe surgery that he's got to go through. And it's really what they're considering in Cincinnati now to be a lost season for the Bengals. And they've got Trey Hendrickson there on a one-year deal. And some of the Detroit papers were talking about maybe the Lions pulling off a deal for Trey Hendrickson. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think pretty much every defensive end that was either a free agent, most of which have now signed, or reportedly on the trading block. Parsons has gone to Green Bay. Hendrickson was out there earlier and might be out there again. Detroit has been connected to, but it hasn't really come from inside the building. It's come from outside the building. Now, make it a little more interesting because Marcus Davenport was hurt in this game. The Lions are getting some second opinions on what's going on with him, but it could be an injury that keeps him out for a while. We don't know for sure as of yet. Dan Campbell, last time he met with the media, just said, we don't have a report. We're still waiting on information. So, look, they may need somebody at that edge rushing position. And last year when they needed somebody, they went out and they made a trade to bring somebody in. So they may do that again. Will it be a big ticket item like a Trey Hendrickson? Man, I don't know. But if he's on a one-year deal and they can get that deal in, maybe that's something they might do if Hendrickson's willing to make that move without getting a multi-year contract to play for another team. So
please
I would say this,
no.
Lou. It's
Please
enticing.
Tell me no, Dan.
It's enticing. I don't know if they'd go that big, but if there's something long-term with Davenport, which we don't know, but we do know his history, they may be forced to do something because they're definitely in a window here where they're competing and they're down in numbers on that defensive line.
How are we going to survive?
If they go out and go get him, I'm calling Roger Goodell to veto
I agree.
that. I mean, Micah Parsons to Green Bay and then Hendrickson to Detroit. Give me a break. No, we don't want to see that in the North.
Ahmad, I'm with you, buddy. Ahmad, I'm with you. I want to make sure you get me on that call with you. Here in Chicago.
I got you.
All right. Ben Johnson, most sought-after coach in years. Now Colin Cowherd's decided the Ben Johnson-Caleb Williams marriage just isn't going to work.
His style in this league is not a timing style. And this coach craves it. This coach craves structure. So is Kyle Shanahan. Caleb wouldn't work with Kyle Shanahan. Maybe there's a coach it works with. I don't think it's Ben Johnson. There are 2 or 3 components to quarterbacking in this league. You don't have to be big. You don't have to be super mobile. Jared Goff isn't. But there are 2 or 3 things you have to do in this league. You have to be consistently accurate. You just have to be. Again, Jared Goff can't run. He's consistently accurate. Caleb's not. And you have to be an anticipation thrower. You have to see stuff before it's wide open, and he doesn't. It also helps if you have composure. I don't think he does. He's like the news anchor and the teleprompter goes down. Oops. I mean, I don't think this marriage is going to work.
Don't be going after news anchors now and prompters.
I'm about to say, I didn't like that last comment. Some of us are skilled without a prompter. Come on now.
Come on now. I can ad-lib. Guys, I brought this up with First Things First host Danny Parkins Monday on our show CST Daily, which, by the way, is on Fox 32 in Chicago, Monday through Friday at 9:30. Little plug there. Listen, I think Caleb Williams looked much better Sunday than he did in the opener against Minnesota. And I saw growth in terms of going through progressions, looking for his second and third option out there. He trusted his feet, yeah. he had a bad pick as well. I get it. Every quarterback has not a bad pick in every game, but every good quarterback out there has thrown a pass that he'd rather get back. I saw improvement. Does Caleb's style fit Ben Johnson's expectations from his type of quarterback, who is, number one, as you just heard from Colin Cowherd, and I agree, a thrower who's incredibly accurate, Jared Goff is, and a thrower who doesn't necessarily have a bazooka for an arm, but his timing with his receivers is near perfect. I mean, Caleb's got great athletic ability, no question. His arm, incredible, both amongst the best in football. But can Ben Johnson and his offense work with a quarterback like this who isn't reliant to get the football to receivers, who can deliver yards after catch? I mean, I want to bring back Dan Miller, because, Dan, you watched Ben Johnson's offense for 3 years. You watched Jared Goff grow in this offense. How important is it to have a quarterback that can play with timing and accuracy?
Well, let's start here. And Ben Johnson chose Caleb Williams. Ben Johnson could have had another job. He chose the Bears, and in so doing, chose Caleb Williams. And is on record as saying he loves the fact that he now has a quarterback who can do things off schedule. It's not a problem that he moves around. It's a problem that Caleb Williams, and I want to say this as nice as I possibly can, doesn't know what he's doing yet when he moves around. He's got gifts. He's got abilities. He's got tools. And he shows you enough that you say, oh, man, I can definitely make something out of this. That can go one of two ways. You can make something out of it, or he's ultimately going to be a coach killer, because there's enough there that you think you can make it work, but it just doesn't happen. And I don't know which way this is going to go, but I'm not ready to throw in the towel and say that Ben Johnson can't work with Caleb and Caleb can't work with Ben Johnson. I still see skills there. Look, Ben Johnson, I said this last week, he's not in Chicago because the Bears are ready to win a Super Bowl. He's in Chicago because you guys stunk. That's the problem. They're not ready to win yet. They may be ready to win in 3 weeks. They may be ready to win in 5 weeks. They may be ready to win in a year. We will see. But I think the impatience that we have, and with a guy that clearly has skills but just hasn't put them all in a box with a bow yet, just sometimes gets out of control. If he goes out next week and goes 31 for 36 and throws for 4 touchdowns, he's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. It takes patience. I don't know where it's going to end up, but to quit on it now isn't the way to go.
I agree with you. I have been screaming about patience since they got Ben Johnson as a head coach, and he may throw for 5 touchdowns against that Dallas defense Sunday here in Chicago. We need to take our final timeout. We preview Week 3 right after this on First and North.
Here we go.
Fox has your game.
Wow.
The Big 10, Big 12, and Mountain West.
What a game.
Hit Friday and Saturday harder than ever before. Don't miss the action. College football is on Fox.
Welcome back. Packers opened up 8.5-point favorites over the Browns, largest spread of any game on the Week 3 schedule. Tim, you betting the Van Born Mansion on the Pack?
A little shack out back. First road game of the year, first noon game of the year. I'm trying to think of reasons why you wouldn't think the Packers would rock in this thing. I think the Packers pretty steady.
Ahmad, battle of the backups. Can Carson Wentz get it done for the Vikings?
Got to go with Carson Wentz. They spend a lot of money on that defense. The defense should be able to help them win games, and Carson should just facilitate and get the ball to Justin Jefferson.
I love this one. Monday nighter. Dan, Derrick Henry, 23 yards last week, and the Lions are throwing King Henry 2 weeks in a row.
I think they're thinking more about 2023 when the Lions went there and got absolutely trucked, 38-6. You got a lot of guys on this team that remember that. A, they understand how tough it'll be. B, they'd like to get a little bit of payback. It's going to be a heck of a game between two teams with Super Bowl dreams.
I've got Detroit winning that game as well. Matt Eberflus coming back to Chicago. I'm sure there will be some boos like Johnson received in Detroit. All right, everyone, great show as always. For Dan, Tim, and Ahmad, thanks for hanging with me. I'm Luke Canellis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week here on First and North.